I recently purchased Resident Evil 4, the remake.
Would you like to restart?
It was on sale on Steam recently. I got the whole DLC with the Ada Wong path and everything. And that got me thinking how that game was originally a GameCube exclusive, believe it or not. Long ago, Capcom and Nintendo sat down and made a deal to have 5 games exclusive to the GameCube, and Resident Evil was one of them. Now, Capcom then announced that this exclusivity deal with the GameCube would only last like a year or two, and Nintendo got so mad at them for announcing it that they didn't want any Capcom characters for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. That's what made Brawl like stick to non-Capcom guest stars, like Solid Snake is Konami, which is very funny to think about. And nowadays, if you see Resident Evil 4, the Wikipedia, like see how many consoles it's available on, it's kind of funny to think about. And this got me thinking about another of the Capcom 5, and that game is Beautiful Joe. It is a franchise with a lot of style, henshin and a go-go baby, of course. The story follows Joe. He's a comic book nerd that wants to save his girlfriend that got kidnapped by this person and got transported inside a movie. Yeah, that's how that's how the game starts. They're making out in the cinema, and they're the only two people because it's a really old movie that they're watching in universe. And then Joe gets grabbed and gets transported as well. This franchise was popular enough to have its own anime as well. By the way, it wasn't a small fry, and that anime also has similar copyright issues. You cannot see the Beautiful Joe anime anywhere without giving the crackhead behind your local Kroger's some crack in exchange for Beautiful Joe tapes. It is insane how weirdly copyrighted this franchise is. And all of the games are very fun. Beautiful Joe 1, of course, solid platformer. Beautiful Joe 2, improved on everything on the original, because you get to play as Joe and Sylvia, so if you like how Joe plays, you can stick as Joe. If you like how Sylvia plays, you can go as Sylvia. There are puzzles and stuff that are exclusive to each character. Like, of course, they're gonna implement it, but it's never hated. It's never boring to play it. Every single scenario is very stylized to where it is. So if it's a city, it's a metropolis with all these cars and all this stuff going on at the background. It's very comic book inspired, even though it's a Japanese game. It's not. It looks more like a comic book than a manga. And they even made like a party brawler game, Beautiful Joe, Red Hot Rumble, where it's a 4v4, and you have to complete the scenarios that go through set pieces of the first 2 games. And it even has its own boss, and it has splice like stuff from the anime in it. This massive franchise with 4 games technically, because there's Beautiful Joe Double Take, but I never played it. It was for the DS, and I just didn't get the game. With 4 games, 2 seasons of an anime, and it's stuck somewhere in copyright hell, and it is absolutely tragic. The studio that it originally came, it closed down, but the studio is still there. You know what the studio became? Platinum Games, yeah, the studio that made Bayonetta. It was made from the remnants of the studio that made Beautiful Joe. And not only that, they make a game that has been remastered like 3 times already, but they cannot touch Beautiful Joe, and it pisses me off every time I see this game. It's Okami. It's a beautiful game. It has very similar art style, like thick outlines, but Okami's trying to replicate all the Japanese art, while Joe's trying to replicate American comic book style. It makes me mad every time I see Okami remastered, because I know that's the exact same studio that did Beautiful Joe, and they do not touch Beautiful Joe at all. The most we see of Joe nowadays is as a guest in fighting games. In Marvel vs. Capcom, I forgot which one, he appeared as a fighting character. I am very mad that this massive franchise that you should all play is just left forgotten in the dust to not be seen by anyone that doesn't want to emulate it or doesn't want to fork over the eddies to get all the physical copies and physical media needed to play it. It's very, very sad. This franchise should get a remaster already. It did get like a spiritual successor with the same artist. You can tell that would be like what Joe would look like in the modern age. It's called The Wonderful 101. And the sad thing is, it's a game that I didn't know existed until I decided to replay Beautiful Joe like long ago. So, I didn't get to support this game. It came out on PlayStation 4, on the Wii U. You control, it looks like Pikmin from the looks of it, but I'm pretty sure it plays very differently. But yes, it has a spiritual successor, and it's very tragic that Joe is stuck all the way back on the GameCube when all of these franchises from the GameCube are getting a lot of love, especially Capcom ones. Like, come on. They're basically remaking Resident Evil 4. They remade the horror Resident Evil franchise. They just need 5 and 6. They're gonna remake 5, and we're gonna get Boulder Puncher in 4K 60 FPS, because there's no way they're gonna back away from that. And hopefully they'll make it fun. If you have the chance to play this wonderful game, Beautiful Joe, you should play it. If you just want to watch the story, watch the anime. It is insanely good. For a tie-in anime to a video game, it goes hard. The animation isn't that half bad. And watch it in English. Honestly, yeah, it's an anime, but watching it on English is just so good because it fits the style very well. The voice actors, absolute mad props. If you want to get the vibes of Beautiful Joe, watch Beautiful Joe Red Hot Rumble AMV. They made on Red Hot Rumble. They made an AMV inside the game with the Japanese band group called Saga. The song is called Spirit Awake. It's not available on Spotify, which absolute tragedy with this franchise, honestly. And the AMV is pretty fun and has some of the highlights of the anime. And hey, if that makes you want to check out the anime, that's all for the better, right? And well, this has been all. This has been Ren, our alias. Bye bye.